Hello, my name is Ilona, and in this video I want to talk about self-worth. And I think that's very important. Someone asked me about that, or what is self-worth, and it's really, what do you think you are worth? And it's an interesting question because most of the times we think that we see ourselves as worthy, but most of the time if you look at our actions and how we act towards ourselves, that's not the case. So look at your life and see, are people treating you with respect? Are people, respecting your boundaries? Are respectful to you? Are they, treating you in a certain way? That's not the case. Then usually it has to do with your self-worth, because at some level you actually think that it's normal that people do not respect you, do not care about you, or do not, think about your feelings or your emotions. It's something you were brought up with, or maybe past lifetimes, but usually I just look at this lifetime. It has to do with certain patterns you grew up in. Maybe your parents had so much going on, they didn't have any time for you, and you started caring for your parents. Then usually you will attract people and partners that you are caring for as well. It's very unbalanced situation, because ultimately your parents are supposed to take care of you and not the different way around. So we have all these coping mechanisms, and it's very unique, obviously, to everyone. Individual, but there are some things, you can look in a general way, and it usually has to do with that you don't think you're worthy enough. You don't believe that you deserve love. You don't believe you deserve attention, and then you start looking at it in different ways. So you can be very obvious that you really try to get always the attention. You get this someone that's always attracting everything, who's very out there. There are also people that go inward and completely close themselves off, isolate themselves. So there are many, coping mechanisms to deal with it. But if you really want to look at your self-worth, look at how people are treating you, and look at the energy of money in your life. Money is also a clear indication. Ultimately, money is just energy. So if you are open for receiving and seeing yourself as, someone that deserves money, that deserves love, you will, attract it without too much trouble. But if you're always at the end of the month, you have some month left and you can barely make even, or, when you do receive money, something else is broken and you'll have to pay for that. That has to do with how much you believe you are worth. So you can see that as an indication as well that there's something you need to heal. So there are convictions you have very deep inside yourself that believe all these things, and that needs to be healed. And it usually has to do with your inner child and the way you were brought up. So look at those things and really see and feel through those things. And maybe you need help, or maybe you have a friend, or just write things down. You can get a clear understanding, but really look at where you are in your life, what's happening, because that's an indication how valuable you think you are. And of course, it's not a mistake that a lot of commercials like L'Oreal use, well, you're worth it. And that's what really it's actually triggering that feeling of, yeah, I'm worth it. But if you truly think you're worth it, it's something, how do you say this? Something natural. But there are a lot of people don't feel worthy, and then they see this commercial, oh, you're worth it, and they're like, yes, I'm worth it. They try to bypass their own insecurities by, how to say this? I'm not sure a correct term for that, but they try to blow up their ego in a way. I guess that's the best way to say it. So they can say a lot of things. You can have this toxic positivity, or I'm worth it, I'm this, I'm that. But if you look at someone, they are not treating their bodies with worth, like they're worthy. But it's more of trying to convince themselves that they're worth it, because ultimately we all want to be worthy. But if you don't feel worthy, you start looking outside of yourself, or you start trying to convince yourself that you're worthy, and then you get all these escalating situations. But really look at you, look at how you treat your body, Look at how you're treated by people around you. Look at what job you're in, how your finances are. Those are all indications of your self-worth. And then you can decide yourself if you really are feeling worthy or not. Because if you truly do, you don't need to say it. It will just be something natural to you. And there's a big difference there. So self-worth really has to do with your worth, how you feel about yourself. Look at your life, use all these opportunities to open up things, to see things in a different way. You can use that. So that's self-worth. I also want to talk about something else, which is just a small topic, and it's not something small, but something I can talk about in a shorter period, and it has to do with forgiveness. And I've noticed a lot of people have the tendency to just forgive without being ready to forgive. And I do believe that that's a pitfall that people should be aware of. I have done an education essential therapy, and in that part, we were doing a lot of systematical work and putting people in certain positions and things like that. And I had to, we were at the part that we needed to forgive our parents. And that's something beautiful in a way, to forgive your parents, because it will clear the way and open things up. But I wasn't ready for that. So there was still anger and frustration and fear and sadness. My inner child wasn't fully healed yet. And I had to forgive. And it felt so off. And it doesn't feel right. And you have to really, if you truly heal those pains and anger and frustration, you become like neutral towards your parents. And essentially then you are already forgiven them, because there's nothing there anymore to trigger things. In a way, you've cleared it by healing that. So I think the emphasis should be on healing, and then you automatically will start to forgive in a way, because you become neutral. It doesn't hurt you anymore. But if you're trying to forgive without taking the proper steps, you're going to get triggered along the way. You're not healing anything. It is like a bypass. And there are also a lot of people, I'm not sure if there are a lot of people, but there are also people that want to keep this harmony, and they have the tendency of not looking at those things and trying to spiritual bypass by let's just forgive, let's just forget. And they're like in this, we just forgive and forget. It has to do with that toxic positivity as well, also in the spiritual world, that you don't have to look at those horrible things like anger and frustration and fear, but it's so important to do that shadow work. We need to do that as well to truly heal. And I also mentioned in my Dutch video, there was this systematic work I was doing. I was portraying a certain emotion with someone, and we were in this systematic, I'm not sure how you call it. In Dutch we call it opstellingen. And everyone was a certain part of a certain person that you portray. And I was, I believe, anger, and there was someone else was saying in that situation, towards the person that would actually, the systematic was how to say this? If you put up a systematic, I'm not sure how you call this, but you represent someone. So that's the person that it's about. And then you start representing maybe the mother or the father or a certain feeling or emotions. You can put in there a lot of things. Well, this person that was the person that was actually involved in this, it was for this person. She was also standing there, and suddenly someone else was also part of the systematic, the system, so to speak, was saying, you should forgive now. And I was standing there as anger, I believe, and I was like, I'm not ready. What? And I really noticed that people want to move past that so fast. So luckily I spoke up in that situation. So other things happened in that, but it's so, people just want to, everything is fine now, and now we have to settle down. Now everything, everyone wants to have that harmony again. And we need to look at the tougher situations as well. And it was very interesting to experience that you shouldn't move too fast. And I suddenly started to really understand what was going on in that education that I did for essential therapy, and why it never felt right to just forgive my parents when I wasn't ready for it. Now I look, of course, differently at my parents, but that's because I've done a lot of healing. So focus on healing, because then you automatically will forgive as well. That's what I wanted to talk about as well. I hope to see you in another video. Bye.